Hi, welcome to History 2301, Section 003. This is Texas History. Once again, 2301, Section 003. My name is Alfonso R. Lopez, and I will be your instructor for this class this semester. Now, in this session, which I have titled Class Introduction, is really the first day of class. Okay, it's like the syllabus day. Okay, this is the very first time that we're going to actually meet. For example, if we were to be conducting a face-to-face instruction, that will be the first day of class. This is the first meeting in which I will be going over the syllabus. This is a very important document which is already available on Blackboard, by the way. It's posted there for your reference, and there's also the file, the Word doc file is also uploaded there as well for your records. I guess it's a very important document that pretty much outlines what the course is going to be about, the kind of instruction, for example, the format of the classes each week will be also explained there. The specific themes or topics that we're going to cover across the semester regarding Texas history, the textbook that we're going to follow as well, and also the method of instruction. In other words, how week by week we're going to proceed, what you're supposed to expect week by week. Everything is explained in the syllabus, which I will be explaining in this class introduction video for your guidance and orientation as to how to actually navigate through this course and to be able to identify the assignments, for example, to be able to follow up week by week with the lectures, and how to prepare for the exams. There will be 3 exams. I'll be talking about that in a few moments, how to prepare for those exams in order to excel in this course, not just to pass, but to excel in this course. And likewise, the syllabus explains the assignments that are due towards the end of the semester in late April. Again, there's a couple of assignments that need to be turned in. I will explain that also in a few moments as well. The syllabus pretty much, explains it all, and it provides even the instructions as well, how to actually carry out those assignments. The syllabus also contains important due dates, like a sort of calendar or tentative schedule, so to speak, week by week of the themes that we're going to be covering across the semester, and when tentatively each of the 3 exams are going to be taking place. It's tentative, it's subject to change, but it's a very good guess, so to speak, when those particular exams are going to take place. But I will actually notify you, when there's going to be an exam. Of course, a week before, I'll send you an announcement. I'll send you the instructions and everything. So this is a very important video, by the way. This is a very important recorded video presentation that is going to remain on Blackboard for your future reference. So whenever you feel lost or you need to clarify, again, certain issues regarding class expectations, materials, and so on, assignments, you can always just go back to this video, and again, everything will be pretty much stated here. Otherwise, you can just send me an email, and I will respond immediately again to any questions or concerns you might have. And of course, this is the way that we can actually be communicating, by the way, okay, across the semester. All right, so let's go over the syllabus. So in order to do that, I will guide you through the course by going to Blackboard, because this is the main platform that we're going to be using for this course is, again, Blackboard. Again, this is where all the assignments are posted. This is where all the lectures are going to be also posted as well. They're going to be recorded, just like this one, by the way. This particular format that I'm actually using right now is exactly the format I will be using across the semester to deliver instruction, meaning that I'll be recording the lectures and posting them on Blackboard. So Blackboard pretty much contains all the instructional materials, course assignments, the syllabus is there. And all works and all assignments, exams, and so on will be submitted on Blackboard as well. This is the place where you pretty much turn in other words, every single assignment. All right, so let us go to the Blackboard page. All right. And this is the Blackboard page, okay? So when you open it up, this is the main page, so to speak. And on the left-hand side, there's going to be a menu bar, so to speak, here on this side, where you're going to see, for example, syllabus. I'm going to actually click it there in just a few moments here, but just be advised that this class introduction video is going to be posted here on this, again, on this link. You can see just below syllabus. Again, there's class introduction, and this is where I'm going to actually post this particular video there for your reference. And again, all of the links I just mentioned, instructional materials, course assignments, and so on, are here. I'm going to explain that again in just a few moments. And submit work. Again, this is a section where works are going to be submitted. The assignments or extra credits, and even the exams. Again, in due time, I'm going to actually create the upload tab for the first, second, and final exams. And this is where you're going to actually turn in those exams as well. Okay. All right, so let's just click on syllabus. So when we click on syllabus, the page is going to open up, and the entire syllabus is going to appear. So there's no need for you to click on a file to open up, again, Word, even though, as I mentioned, at the very end, when you scroll all the way down in this page, all the way down, at the very end, there is the syllabus there posted, the file, the Word doc. Again, if you need to print it or save it in your computer, etc., again, you can actually do so. The file is there. This is a specific, again, syllabus. And let me just go over the syllabus, which really, again, pretty much outlines everything you need to know about this course, Texas History 2301, Section 003, everything you need to know to succeed and excel, again, in this course. So let us go step by step, over syllabus. We start with, once again, my name is Alfonso R. Lopez. I will be your instructor for this class this semester. You may reach me via email. This is the most effective, the most, the easiest, the quickest, the fastest, again. Way to reach me is my email, again, alfonso.lopez at austincc.edu. And I'm checking my email several times a day, so more than likely you'll receive a response in the same day and within 24 hours, again. So again, this, the format of this course is that this is going to be online, fully online, asynchronous, meaning that there's no designated class meetings of any sorts. It's asynchronous, meaning that I will be just providing the instruction every week on Blackboard, and your responsibility is to review that instruction, to go over the material in your own schedule. for your own convenience. Okay. All right. So the textbook is going to be Robert Colbert, Arnoldo de Leon, and Greg Cantrell, and the authors again of this book titled The History of Texas. We're going to be using the 5th edition, published in 2015. So if you're wondering, how the books look like, again, is this one, again, right here. Again, this is the textbook we're going to actually use. Now, it's very important, again, that you understand here that there will be a significant amount of lecture material that is going to come from other sources. Again, in other words, it's not going to, the entire class is going to be simply a recital of this book. Again, it's not just that, I'm going to be going chapter by chapter and pretty much reciting what the chapter is telling you, so you can just go back and read the chapter and understand everything, again, that I'm lecturing. That's not the way this is going to work. I use a multiplicity of different sources to enrich the understanding of Texas history that range from not only historical books, again, I use a lot of history books, again, but also I use books that deal with culture, religion, for example, sociology, political science, and so on. Again, so of course that deals with the history of Texas. So it's going to be, the lectures are going to be based on a multiplicity of different sources, outside of this book, by the way. The book serves as a sort of guideline, so to speak, as a baseline. Again, you can go back to the book and pretty much recapture certain elements, again, of the lectures, but there's going to be a lot of material that is not going to be covered in the book. So, for example, when I lecture about the Native American groups of Texas, I use sources, again, that deal with the historical record gathered by historians, archaeologists, and so on, that have studied Native American societies and cultures of the Americas, North America, Mexico, Texas, and I try to pretty much paint a broader picture, again, of what Native American civilizations and Native American groups were like that are not covered in the book. Okay, so you'll learn a lot about, again, what the Native American groups used to, for example, believe in. What kind of religions they practiced, what kind of gods and goddesses they worshipped, and so on. Their economic systems as well, in other words, how they survive, the strategies of survival, and so on. For example, in Texas, the different groups, you'll be able to identify that there were a multiplicity of different groups in Texas, and they were different because they lived in different regions, they came from different places, and so on and so forth. So again, it's going to be very rich, presentation of historical sources, based on multiplicity of different sources. Likewise, when we cover, for example, the Spanish background of Texas, I will also use a lot of material from European history. For example, the history of Spain. For example, the institutions of Spain, the customs, the traditions, and so on, the modes of governance, and so on, within Spain that were transplanted into Texas. So you'll be able to understand the Spanish heritage. So there's going to be a significant amount of material that is not covered in this book that will be presented, for example, about the Spanish background and so on. So we can go case by case in every period of Texas history. I will be drawing, from outside sources, a lot of material, a lot of insights, again, that I gather from reading books and articles and so on, that, once again, do not just concentrate on history per se, but also on religion, culture, and so on. Again, so it's going to be the approach like multidisciplinary. Okay, this different disciplines of academia are going to be integrated again into the lectures. Okay, so having said that, I highly recommend that you get the book, but just keep that in mind that you cannot just ignore the lectures believing that somehow a certain chapter is going to give you everything. Okay, so that's what I'm actually trying to get at here, trying to convey. There will be, in addition to this textbook, a couple of required readings that, again, this is something that you don't have to purchase. Those are actually articles that are already posted on Blackboard, by the way. They're in PDF files there. A couple of required readings that will be designed for you to write a couple of reports. So there's two article reports. Article report number 1, you can see here in Submit Work, and article report number 2. Those reports are based on those two articles. Again, they're already available on Blackboard. For example, when you go to course assignments, you click on course assignments, and those are the assignments, again, that are required. They're due at the end of the semester. Article report number 1, article report number 2, those are two folders. If you click on them, the instructions are going to be there, and also the article that you need to read is already there. Okay, so you don't need to search for those articles anywhere. They're already there. Again, those are due towards the end of the semester. So again, it's something that I'm going to get back to in a few minutes here. So, all right, so let's talk about the format of this course, and then we can also talk about the course description as well. Okay, so this is an asynchronous course, meaning that there will be no designated class meeting for real-time instruction. This is a very flexible type of format designed to give you the opportunity to work on this class, on the lectures in your own time, in your own schedule. But I highly recommend that, since I will be posting lectures every week, 2 lectures, by the way, there will be 2 classes, in other words, 2 videos that will be recorded and posted on Blackboard. I highly recommend that you don't wait until, for example, when the first exam is coming up, you're trying to go back and pretty much watch all of the lectures, since the beginning of the semester, and trying to take all the notes and trying to pretty much answer the questions on the exam. Again, this is going to be a monumental task. It will be best to pretty much go week by week and doing the work in your own schedule, by the way. But again, this is what I recommend. Okay, I will be communicating with you through Blackboard announcements. I will be sending announcements. For example, every time I post a lecture, I record a video lecture and I post it, I immediately send you an announcement again. So this is going to take place twice a week. Again, twice a week. And as soon as I post a video, I will send you the announcement, that the video is already there. And when the next video is going to be posted and so on. Again, this is how we're going to proceed, by the way. It's very similar to, a face-to-face instruction, those classes, for example, that students actually attend a class twice a week, Monday and Wednesday, or Tuesday and Thursday. You have 2 classes to attend to, for example. It's almost like that. the experience, that is to say, is that there will be two classes again that range about an hour and 20 minutes or so that are going to be posted on Blackboard. And your responsibility again is to watch those lectures and take notes. Okay, so let's talk about the course description. I don't know if I can actually, yeah, I can make this a little bit, more visible. So again, the course description. This course will survey the history of Texas from prehistoric times all the way to the present. We are going to get, all the way to the present, so to speak, again, contemporary times, by the way. And this course is going to place a special emphasis on ethnic minorities. Okay. Texas is a very diverse state, by the way, that has a very rich history that goes back to the Native American groups, by the way, that inhabited this region. That, as I will explain again in the course, those groups actually go back thousands upon thousands of years into the past, perhaps migrating into this continent, roughly speaking, 40,000 years ago, or even, farther back. So we are going to go as far back as to look at prehistoric times. Okay, the Stone Age, for example. Okay, how the Native American groups, came from Asia and so on. We're going to talk about all of that. How they settled in the American continent, the specific civilizations that flourished in the Americas, the highly advanced civilizations in this case that flourished in places like North America and also in Middle America, okay, like present-day Mexico or Central America. And what kind of connections were they between those groups? And of course, we're going to place a special emphasis, of course, on the indigenous peoples of Texas, by looking at the different groups that settled in Texas, what kind of societies they built, what kind of cultures they formulated, the religions, the tools, and so on. Again, we're going to take a very, very in-depth look at those societies. And again, Texas has a very rich history, as I explained, because as we'll see, the Native American groups that inhabited its region are going to come into contact, of course, with the Europeans, starting with the Spaniards in the 1500s. And there's going to be a colonization process by Spain in Texas. Spain is going to colonize this region, as well as the entire, what today is called the American Southwest, including Middle America and parts of South America as well. Large, imperial system of Spain in the Americas that Texas was part of. And there's going to be interaction between the Spanish settlers and the indigenous peoples. And at some point, there's going to be a mixing, if you will, again, of Spanish and Native American, and there's going to be a hybrid, if you will, kind of culture on the rise in Texas. Then we're going to look at beyond the Spanish contribution, the Spanish heritage left in Texas. We're going to look at, of course, Mexico, because Mexico declared independence from Spain. We see the emergence of a new nation state called Mexico, the Republic of Mexico, that Texas was part of as well. And we're going to see Mexico governing Texas as well, and attempting to colonize it by sending people over from central Mexico or from the upper states of Mexico, from the northern frontier, but also opening the doors for American colonization. That is to say, allowing Americans to come into Texas and colonize it as well. The Republic of Mexico opened the doors for American colonization in the 1820s and early 1830s. So we got another, of course, more influence, more groups coming into Texas. In this case, from the United States, peoples who are actually bringing also their own ideas, their own cultures, and so on, their political philosophies that we're going to actually talk about in great depth. What kind of ideas the Americans brought to Texas. And again, we got a huge mix now. Because we got Native Americans, we got Spaniards, people of Spanish descent and heritage, people that are descended from Spanish and Native American. We got, of course, people from Mexico, and of course now Americans. And of course, one of the issues again that we're going to look at is that this process of American colonization in Texas again also brought about the introduction of other ethnic groups. For example, the African slaves. In this case, again, slavery was introduced in Texas in this process of American colonization that I just referred to in the 1830s, in the 1820s and early 1830s. And once we see the process of Texas independence in 1836, Texas declaring independence from Mexico for reasons that we're going to get to, of course, in the course. When Texas becomes now fully independent from Mexico and becomes a republic, we're going to see more and more the flourishing, if you will, of this institution called slavery. African slavery is going to actually boom in Texas during the years of the Texas Republic from 1836 to 1845, and then of course with the annexation of Texas into the United States in 1845, we're going to see yet an expansion of that institution even further for reasons that again we're going to actually go in depth again. When we're talking about, of course, this process of annexation and statehood, Texas becoming part of the Union. Again, so what we see is a very diverse, if you will, social landscape, in Texas. There's a multiplicity of different ethnicities that are not just going to be Native American, Spanish, and, people from Mexico and Americans, but also there will be a great effort to invite colonists from Europe. Okay, whether we're talking about the Republic of Texas or are we talking about the state of Texas in the United States, there were intense efforts also to open the doors again for European colonists to settle in Texas. People's coming, for example, from Germany. Okay, there will be German immigrants. There will be French. There will be Poles and Czechs and so on. From Great Britain, again, there will be a multiplicity again of different ethnicities coming also from Europe as well. So again, it is going to even become far more diverse. Once we get into this process of statehood and so on, Texas. That's why there's going to be, strong emphasis in ethnic minorities. And then in the 20th century, again, once we move into the 20th century, by the way, again, there's also going to be further immigration into Texas. In this, when we talk about, for example, towards the end of the course, there's going to be a topic regarding Texas in the age of globalization, and there we're going to see again more and more immigration, so to speak, taking place from various places of the world. There will be people coming from Asia, for example, from India. There will be people coming from Latin America, not only from Mexico, but from various regions of Latin America, pouring into Texas. And again, Texas is, by the late 20th and early 21st century, is going to be far more diverse than ever before. So again, this is going to be a specific focus again there in terms of the social history of Texas, looking at all of the social groups, again, that helped form the history of this state, okay, in their own way. Whether, we're talking about Native Americans or Spaniards, Mexicans, Americans, so on, okay, all the way to today. All right, so now the way we're going to actually divide the course is that there will be three main historical periods that we're going to look at, okay? And each historical period is going to be covered in 3 topics. So there will be 9 topics overall, okay? So the first historical period we're going to look at, again, is titled The Indigenous Spanish and Mexican Backgrounds of Texas, okay? So this is the first historical period. We're going to cover 3 topics. One will be devoted to the Native Americans, the other one's to the Spanish background, and the other one to the Mexican background, again. Each topic is going to be covered in 3 classes. Okay, there will be 3 videos, in other words, 3 video sessions for each topic that we're going to be covering. Okay, so this is the first historical topic, and once we cover those 3 topics, this is the first historical period. The first historical period of Texas history. We'll have 3 topics, and once we cover those 3 topics, then we're going to have the first exam. So once we have that first exam, then we move into the second historical period of Texas history called Independence, Nationhood, and Civil Wars. Okay, so this is following a timeline, if you will. Okay, we move into this second historical period that looks at this process of independence, Texas independence, then the process by which it becomes part of the Union, the United States, nationhood, if you will, and then, of course, the Civil War, okay? Texas was part of the Confederacy, so it participated in the Civil War on the side of the Confederacy. This is something we're going to look at again. So there will be 3 topics also covered in this historical period. And once we cover those 3 topics, then we have the second exam. That is going to cover that particular historical period, okay? And then the very last historical period is titled Modernization, Crisis, and Reforms. Something that is going to cover, roughly speaking, the late 19th century, okay, from 1877 all the way to the present day. Okay, when Texas modernized, again, modernization. Texas after the Civil War and Reconstruction is going to undergo significant change. Is going to industrialize, is going to modernize, trying to catch up with the changes that were taking place in the North, in terms of industrialization, a capless economic system and so on, modern systems of transportation, railroads and so on, trade. And we're going to look at some of the problems that Texas was facing, again, in this process of change, what we call crises, for example. Texas had a lot of difficulties really modernizing, leaving the traditions of the past, the ways of the past, again, how people used to live, the life of, again, for example, most people were farmers in Texas, in the 19th century, and with the rapid industrialization taking place in the late 19th and the 20th century, of course, there will be a lot of anxiety and dislocation. A lot of people will have to actually face, of course, significant radical change in the way they lived in order to adapt to new ways of life, living in cities, in industrial cities, working in factories, etc. We're going to actually look at all that. And also how Texas was responding to those crises by attempting to reform, again, the state, trying to bring about legislation to better the lives of workers or the lives of farmers or the lives of the middle class and so on. We're going to, in this case, we're also going to be looking at the civil rights movement, of course, trying to create, a more equitable society. In the 1960s, there's going to be legislation, of course, taking place in Texas in that regard. And, of course, looking at this process of globalization at the very end, again, of the course, we're going to be looking at globalization as well. How Texas is going to enter, not only, again, that is modernizing, that was causing significant change in Texas, but in the late 20th century, Texas was already moving again into this new era, really entering a globalized age in which, again, the nations are becoming more and more integrated. There's the rise of modern technologies, satellites, computers, the World Wide Web, and so on, increasing immigration, of course. And the culture of Texas is also, with globalization, changing ever more, something that we're going to actually cover in great depth, again, towards the end of the course. So once we finish the last three topics of this last historical period, we're going to have the final exam, okay? So this is, again, the course description, what we're going to be covering. And as I mentioned a few moments ago, the lectures are going to bring in a multiplicity of different perspectives, okay? It's going to borrow a lot of insights and theories, if you will, from other disciplines outside of history, okay? For example, looking at culture, okay? Cultural analysis, cultural theory is going to be integrated again in the lectures. So it is important to understand the cultures, again, of the people that we study in the past, not just to memorize what happened, for example, to memorize dates or the names of specific individuals, or to memorize laws or the names of political parties and so on. So that's important, but we also need to know how people used to live. That's what culture is, how people used to frame the way they look at life, how they viewed the universe, as a whole. What were their beliefs like? Okay, what they prayed to, and so on. What kind of foods they ate, how they dressed, their manners, and all that. All of that is culture. So this is what we're going to be doing extensively again, pretty much psychoanalyzing in many cases the people that we study. In other words, we're trying to get into people's heads to see the world through their eyes. That's what cultural analysis is. Again, it's really trying to go into people's mindsets in order to see reality and through their own particular perspective. To understand the past, we need to really understand people, as fully as we can. So this is my approach. It's going to be very, very psychological in many cases. Again, I really, use a lot of psychology when I study history, just so I can actually try to understand people's behaviors, people's actions, in other words. What, for example, kind of experiences they had, so they, to understand what kind of world they created. Why certain institutions were important to them, why certain ceremonies that they practiced were so essential, so important, so meaningful to them. How people were raised, for example, okay, in specific moments in history, because that actually impacts the way we behave, how we're raised, what kind of experiences we go through as we're growing up, and so on. Again, this is really explaining how we actually see the world. So again, this is going to be my approach. I'm letting you know because as you hear the lectures or you start actually watching those videos, you're going to actually learn a lot, again, about culture, for example, the history of culture, the history of religions as well. I'm going to use sociology, okay, from time to time to explain, for example, social change, why there's change in history, okay? What brings change? Why people change their societies? Why they abandon certain values, certain traditions, certain norms, and they create new ones. Okay, so I'm going to actually use sociological analysis to explain that as well. Okay, so in other words, it's not just going to be a narrative in which I'm going to just be describing what happened in the past, but also explaining why it happened. Okay, it's very important to understand also why events happen in history. Okay, why things change, for example, what caused human societies, human cultures to change. All of that is going to be explained very thoroughly. Okay, and also another thing that you're going to notice is that I attempt as much as possible to teach history from a global perspective. Now, whatever course I'm actually teaching, whether it's Texas history or U.S. history, Mexican American history, and so on, I try to connect what's happening here regionally, locally, let's say in Texas, with what's going on around the world. Okay? Because no society, no culture is developing on its own in perfect isolation from the rest of the world. We're constantly impacted and influenced by the outside. Okay, so that's exactly my approach. That it's not just going to ignore the global picture. The lectures are not going to overlook the whole and just look at Texas, but rather, as we explain Texas, there's going to be a connection with the outside. What was really going on in other places, for example, or how the history of Texas was impacted, let's say, by events in Europe or by events in Mexico, and so on, to make those connections. Okay, that is my approach. Again, this is my perspective. Every professor has a specific, unique perspective. Every perspective is very useful, very valid. My perspective is, again, trying to teach history from a global perspective, okay, in this case, okay? All right. So, to look at the mode of learning now. Again, what I just explained is the course description, but now let's look at the mode of learning. So the mode of learning is that, as I just explained a moment ago, again, is that every week there will be 2 classes, okay, posted on Blackboard. They're going to be recorded, just like this video presentation. It's exactly like this. There's no difference, okay? It's identical. So you're going to be able to hear me, to see me, and also you'll be able to see what's in my screen. I will be sharing the outline, for example. I have bullet points, maps, or I have photographs of the individuals and so on that we're talking about. You'll be able to see what's in my screen because that's exactly the outline I'm actually using. So this is just a representation, an exact representation of the class, what you're looking at. And there will be 2 classes recorded every week, posted on Blackboard, and I will send you an announcement. Once those videos are uploaded, I will send you an immediate announcement saying, okay, so, the lecture is already posted. It can be Monday and Wednesday, the days that those lectures are going to be posted, or they can be Tuesday and Thursday, okay? For example, this first week of class is going to be Tuesday and Thursday because Monday is a holiday, okay? So there's no class, okay, on Monday. But again, this video, this class introduction is going to be posted on Tuesday. So this is the first day of class, okay? It's going to be posted on Tuesday. And Thursday, you're going to have the first actual lecture, again, the first topic of the semester. That is the indigenous peoples of Texas. Okay, that's going to be posted. The very first historical lecture, again, on Thursday. All right, so once again, 2 classes per week. every week, by the way. Okay, they're going to be recorded. They're going to range about an hour and 20 minutes, what a class should be, more or less, give and take. And your responsibility then is to be watching those classes on a timely fashion. I highly recommend that you watch those classes each week. Again, every week, that you'll be, keeping up with that rhythm in terms of watching the material and taking notes. It's very important that you take notes on the lectures as thoroughly as possible, because the 3 exams are going to be based exclusively 100% on the lectures and nothing else. So if you're wondering, how do you actually going to prepare for the exams? The lectures will give you everything that you need to know, everything that you need to learn for this course in order to actually prepare for the exams and succeed. Okay, so there will be no assigned outside readings to complement, the instruction, so you can actually be able to answer the questions on the exams. All you need is take as notes as fully as possible. What that means is not necessarily writing everything word for word, but really try to write as much as possible. Okay, not just the essence of it, but rather also, keep up with the details. I give a lot of details. There's plenty of details. I break down, for example, historical events in ways that I explain, for example, just an example, for example, the collapse of, say, Native American societies in the 10th and 11th century AD in the Americas, by the way. And I explained, for example, that there was an environmental change. Again, it was a cool cycle that affected the planet that actually made production very difficult for a lot of societies, whether it was agricultural production or hunting, and there was a population reduction. Again, during those times that really, for a lot of societies, there was no option but to migrate. There's outer migrations and so on. So those are the kinds of details that I'm actually talking about. So when you hear that there's in-depth, rich analysis that is being delivered to you, again, in terms of, why things change in history, okay, those are the details that you need to really, again, listen to and write down as much as possible, again, that kind of analysis, because there's going to be a question on the exam that will ask you that, and I'm expecting that you write as much as possible. In other words, the kind of answers that I'm expecting in the exams are not just very general, very brief kind of explanations, but rather in-depth explanations, again. So the notes are very important. Write as much as possible, again, as you're watching those videos, okay? So as I mentioned, there will be 3 historical periods. This is like the table of contents, so to speak, of this course, okay? The lectures are not going to be simply random, but they're organized into themes or topics, okay? As I mentioned, this is something I already explained. So every week, what you're going to actually expect is that starting on Thursday, we're going to start with the first historical topic of the first historical period, the indigenous Spanish and Mexican backgrounds. In this case, the first historical topic is the indigenous peoples of the Americas and Texas. Okay, and I talk about that in 3 sessions. There will be 3 recorded videos on that first topic. You'll be able to see the outlines, you'll be able to see the maps, the graphs, everything that I'm actually, using. You'll be able to see that for your reference. The key ideas, the bullet points, the names, everything, again, is going to be there. So it'll be very easy for you to actually be able to follow. This is like the train of thought, in other words, The classes are very, very structured in that I talk about the origins, for example, of the indigenous peoples, where they came from, when they arrived to the Americas, to Texas, for example, the flourishing of the most advanced civilizations of the Americas, and of course I talk about the specific peoples of Texas as well, the specific groups of the indigenous peoples of Texas as well. It's very, very, again, very, very organized and very structured. And so that's, again, is going to be the organization of the lectures. There will be 9 historical topics as a whole in the entire semester. Okay? So this is like the index or the table of contents. Again, it's like a book, for example, has 3 parts. Each part deals with a historical period, and each part has 3 chapters. Okay? So as a whole, there's like 9 chapters. Again, it's a convenient way of looking at this. Again, so once we finish 3 topics, we have the first exam. Then we go into the second historical period. We cover 3 topics. We have the second exam based on those specific topics. And then at last, we cover part 3, the 3 topics there. And then we have the final exam. And the final exam is only going to cover the last 3 topics. It's not going to be comprehensive. The final exam will only cover the last 3 topics of the semester. Again, it is going to be almost identical in terms of the structure. What the exams look like, for example, and how we're proceeding step by step. In part 1, part 2, and part 3, it's almost identical. Okay, the organization, the structure, and so on. Okay, so those are the specific titles, the names of the topics that we're going to cover, and for your reference. Okay, and those topics don't correspond necessarily to the chapters in this book. That's why I'm actually letting you know that this is not just the table of contents of this book, and I'm just kind of like going over those chapters. Okay, the book really provides like a baseline, so to speak, again, about what we're covering, but I'm actually adding more and more details, in other words, more analysis, that is to say. Okay. So again, the exams, there will be 3 exams, as I mentioned. 2 exams, the first and the second, will be worth 20%, and only the final will be worth 30% of the final grade. There'll be no fill in the blanks, there'll be no scantrons, or there'll be no short memory sort of kind of exercise, but rather the exams are going to be, the format of each one of those exams is going to be simply questions and key terms. Okay, so what I'll do is that I cover 3 topics again, and then from one topic, you don't know which topic that is going to be, but one topic, what I do is that I frame questions again. That are all in the notes, by the way. Questions about that topic. Let's say the indigenous peoples of Texas. There'll be like 4 questions that you'll have to answer. And all you need to do is look at the question and just answer each question as fully as possible. It's not an English composition type of essay, okay? So you don't need to worry about superstructure and thesis statement and arguments and so on. No. Just, there will be 4 questions. Look at each question and just answer each question as fully as possible. Okay? That is going to be part 1 for 80 points or 70 points, depending. And there's going to be a part 2, key terms. Okay? So what I do is I look at another topic and say, oh, this is another topic. And what I do is that I extract key terms from that topic, and your responsibility for this exam is to describe as fully as possible that key term from this other topic. Okay? So if you're wondering, how do I prepare for this? Well, once I finish each topic, I actually give you the questions in advance. Okay? So there's no mystery. as to what kind of questions would there be, asked about, let's say, the indigenous peoples of Texas. No, at the end of the outline, at the very bottom of the document, I actually give you the questions. So you can actually start looking at them like, oh, so he lectured about this in 3 videos, and he's actually giving me the study questions, the specific questions that will appear on the exam. And for the key terms, I also select, one topic for the key terms, and you'll see the key terms at the end as well. So there's 3 topics covered, again, for each part. 2 topics are going to have questions, and 1 is going to have key terms. That's the way it's going to work. 2 topics that are going to have questions each, and 1 topic is going to cover key terms. But for the exam, you're only required to answer the questions of 1 topic and the key terms of another. Okay, not to answer the questions of all the 3 topics. Just 1 topic. There will be, for example, the indigenous people of Texas. You answer all the questions and then the key terms from the other topic. That's the exam. And the same applies for the second exam and the final exam. They're identical. Again, so it's just answering as fully as possible. I'm very picky in terms of details, again. So instead of you just trying to rush and trying to finish as quickly as possible and trying to just like answer in a very general way, try to add more details and specific examples. The videos are going to actually explain all of that, by the way, and so all you need to do is just go back to the video, write as much notes as possible, and use that material, again, to answer those questions. Okay? So, if you do that, you'll ace this course. There's no way you can actually be lost in this course. There's no way you can actually fail, if you actually apply yourself, you take the notes, if you're keeping up with the material and everything, I'm very sure, again, that you'll be able to succeed and excel, okay, in this class if you do that. Of course, and if you ever need extra points, okay, there's 3 extra credit assignments already posted on Blackboard. Under course assignments, there's going to be a folder there under course assignments that it says extra credits. Okay, there's 3 extra credits. There's optional. This is not mandatory. But each extra credit assignment can add up to 10 points to each of the 3 exams. So again, there's plenty of room for you to actually improve your grades. If you ever need to, if you're striving really to ace this class, this is the perfect opportunity again. Or if you're, let's say, having, some difficulties in the beginning because, you didn't know what to expect, you're, earning C's or whatever, this is a perfect opportunity to bump up, again, those grades up to a B. So again, extra credit assignments, okay? Now, I mentioned about course assignments, okay? There's going to be 2 course assignments, 2 article reports that are due on April 26th. Okay, this is, again, pretty much the last week of April. They're 15% each, so 30% of your final grade will come from those article reports. I highly recommend that you do those, not just one, or because just turning in one of those article reports is going to take away 50% of the grade just off the bat. So I highly recommend that you do everything as possible, everything you can to actually, again, complete all those assignments. Again, the article reports is just reading an article. One article has to do with discovering the Tejano community in early Texas. It's a very good article that really explains the similarities, in this case, between the Tejanos and the Texans. Okay, so the Tejanos are the peoples of Mexican descent in Texas. They're called Tejanos, and the Texans are the peoples of American descent in Texas, again. And those striking similarities, again, in terms of their experiences. They have a lot of shared experiences and shared values. The cultures, there's a lot of overlaps in their culture. So this is, again, a very good article. I highly recommend that. You'll be surprised, again, to learn about the similarities between, again, the Tejanos and the Texans, again, particularly when we're looking at the 19th century, early 19th century. Okay, between those two groups, you read it and then you answer the questions. I actually presented a series of questions, and your responsibility is to simply be answering those questions again, step by step. Okay, that will be one report, and the other report, article report number 2, is reading an article called Texas Redskins and Confederate Grade. So this is, again, an article that deals with the participation of certain Native American groups in Texas in the Confederacy, during the Civil War, that they were, again, some Native Americans that voluntarily joined the Confederacy to fight, again, for Texas. So, again, this is also a very interesting article. And there's about 3 questions you need to answer again and turn it in on Blackboard on April 26th. Those are the only 2 assignments. So all the instructions are either in the syllabus. You just looked at that again. The questions are there, the format, how to carry it out. Or you can go to Blackboard under course assignments, and you'll be, again, looking at 2 folders, article report number 1, article report number 2, and you'll see the instructions. There's even the article there. You don't need to search for it anywhere. So this is the grade distribution. First exam 20%, second exam 20%, final exam 30%, article report number 1 15%, article report number 2 15%, with a total of 100 points, with the opportunity of earning additional points with the extra credit assignments. Again, you can have, again, an additional 30 points. If you do 3 extra credits, you can add up to 30 points to the exams. You can, add to the first, second, and final exams, a whole letter grade. You can raise it up again. And also keep in mind, again, this is very important, that at the end of the semester, when I'm about to give you your final grade, I actually do an assessment on an individual case-by-case analysis, meaning that I look at your grades, from the first, second, final exams, and so on. And so if I see that you were really, really striving to improve your grades from the first to the second to the third, I see a progression going upward. In other words, let's say from a 70 to an 80, perhaps to a low 90, etc. for the final. And then you submitted 1 extra credit assignment and so on. So I see effort. And if I see that at the end you're 88.75, let's say, and I see this student was really striving, there's a lot of effort, a lot of commitment, a lot of hard work. So what I do is that I take that commitment, that hard work into account, and I can actually give you the A. But I have to see effort. So it's not automatic, that you have an 88.75 final average, and automatically that will give you, again, the A. I have to see progression, okay? I have to see effort, okay? That will also be taken into account as well, okay? So it's not automatic. Keep in mind, okay? So with that said, just realize that there's plenty of room for improvement. Okay, you're not going to be stuck with whatever grade you're getting, again, in the exams. Okay, all right, so again, this is pretty much a breakdown of the course, what the course is going to be like, and so on. Then there's going to be a tentative course schedule and assignments, a week by week, which specific topics we're going to be covering each week, and so on, when the first exam will take place, February the 23rd, tentatively, again. Then in part 2, it also shows you the week by week distribution and coverage of the topics and when the second exam is going to be, April the 6th. And for the third part, likewise, it tells you, this week by week, of course, distribution. The article reports when they're due, April 26th. It's telling you there when the last lecture class, again, is going to be uploaded, about May the 5th or so. And then the final exam, again, on May the 10th, and so on. So this is in a nutshell, what the course is going to be like. Again, the requirements, the method of instruction, how the lectures are going to be actually structured, and so on. And again, the important due dates. I hope that this class introduction video provided a good guidance as to what to expect, how to actually proceed starting now this week, and what are the main expectations. Okay, so this is again a video that will be posted here under class introduction. It will be there throughout the semester, as this is the syllabus day or the class introduction. And again, instructional materials. The instructional materials are going to be folders that are going to be for the video lectures. You see a folder that says recorded video lectures. This is the place where I'll be posting, again, the recorded video lectures. There's going to be 9 folders, each folder representing each of the topics, and each folder is going to have 3 videos. Okay, just as I explained. Okay, and also you're going to have another folder says lecture outlines and questions. Okay, so lecture outlines and questions are all of the outlines I present to you of each topic. All of the bullet points, I'm going to share them and post them there. As a matter of fact, they're already there. Okay, they're available for you again to review and so on. And the required readings as well. Again, those are the articles that you actually need to read to actually carry out those article reports. Okay, that's under instructional materials. Course assignments, of course, gives you the instruction to carry out the article report and also the extra credit assignments. Okay, and in this last section, submit work, this is where all work will be submitted, including the exams. The exams are also going to be submitted here. I'm going to be actually, creating the upload tab for the exams when the exam comes. That is to say, okay. So this is all I have for you. I hope that this initial introduction has actually helped you identify the main components of this course. And if you have any questions, please let me know once again through email. I will be checking my email every day, several times a day. So more than likely within the first 24 hours, you'll receive a response. Okay. So this is all I have for you for this class introduction. And I hope this is going to help you navigate and identify everything that you need to know. And I'll be more than happy to be assisting you across the semester, not only answering your questions or attending your concerns, etc., your doubts, clearing again everything that you might arise, but also to give you the best possible instruction again for this course, so you can actually learn as fully as possible the history of this state, the state of Texas. Okay. My name is Alfonso R. Lopez. I'll be your instructor for this semester. This is all I have for you, and then I'll see you then on Thursday for the first lecture on the indigenous peoples of Texas. Thank you.